learning.
Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Life is a journey, and the Doherty Family College will help you get where you want to go. Located downtown Minneapolis, this affordable 2-year college provides free textbooks, a laptop, meals, career coaches, one-on-one mentorship, and a Metro Transit pass, making DFC the perfect pathway to a bachelor's degree. Turn your dreams into reality. Connect with a counselor today at dfc.stthomas.edu.
COVID-19 vaccines are safe, effective, free, and approved for everyone over the age of 12. Need help getting a COVID-19 vaccine? Trusted community connectors can find vaccination sites, make appointments, answer questions, and provide interpretation. To learn more about scheduling a free appointment or find a community connector, visit ramseycounty.us/COVID vaccine. That's ramseycounty.us/COVID vaccine.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
If you're hurting in your relationship or have been affected by sexual violence, you're not alone. Strong Hearts Native Helpline can help you through these difficult and uncertain times. Strong Hearts Helpline is a free 24/7 confidential domestic dating and sexual violence helpline for Native Americans. Help is available by calling 1-844-762-8483 or by clicking on the Chat Now icon on strongheartshelpline.org. This message is sponsored by the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies overnight with a low around 69. Tuesday, partly cloudy with a high near 94. Wednesday, sunny with a high near 90. And Thursday, sunny with a high near 92. Located just north of 50th in France, the Great Wall Restaurant has been providing a delicious taste of authentic Chinese cuisine since 1981. They offer one of the most extensive Chinese menus in the Twin Cities, and they have takeout available too. Learn more about the Great Wall Restaurant at eatlocalminnesota.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut. He didn't cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. You're listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanjahade. We discuss local and national Native news and ideas. And as you all know, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 Hotline. Call them at 651-304-9986. They're open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
We had a great weekend, with
great weather, family.
Water.
Yep.
Water
is life.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And then
the water was so low though.
Right.
It was
and
really
drought
crazy.
out here in Mississippi. And then Ogimaa had her birthday celebration.
That's right.
So she's a few years older now.
Yeah.
After the weekend.
Older and wiser.
And Lewis is just doing his thing.
He's a baby.
We
saw 6 bald eagles yesterday also. How beautiful was that?
And I think there was one that had hair too that wasn't bald. Hey. So hey, a lot's going on. And we have Dr. Stately today.
Awesome.
And Lewis and I are going to talk about a few things. Mm-hmm. And you're definitely the co-host and my sidekick. But right now, you're going to listen to Native news that you don't hear anywhere else. And I know there's a lot of stuff going on. So let's get Ogimaa on right now.
Hi,
Hey, Anim Bonjour, everybody. Are you able to hear me all right?
We hear you loud
Yeah.
and clear.
Perfect. All right. So I just wanted to start today by reminding people that Rise Coalition and all of the other organizations in northern Minnesota that are working to protect the wild rice waters are inviting people north July 19th through 31st. Enbridge is more than 60% done constructing their proposed Line 3 pipeline in northern Minnesota. And on July 15th, the last restrictions to stop them from drilling under waterways where wild rice grows were lifted. So Enbridge is going to go under the final river crossings, which will likely start with the one under the headwaters of the Mississippi. So on news for that today, I have not had news yet out of what's happening near the Mississippi headwaters, but today at the Shell River, there were 7 women arrested. Of those 7 women arrested, one of them was Winona LaDuke. I don't fully know the circumstances behind the arrests on that one yet, but I mean, this is something that people, I think, aren't really aware of what's happening. You know, the Enbridge is poised with a drill to drill under this river, and the native people in this state and from outside of the state have literally no other courses of actions but to put themselves between the equipment and the earth. You know, I mean, and their horses at the Shell River. They were there with horses today before they were arrested. So there was about 40 water protectors who were on scene, and the women who were arrested, up to 7 of them who were arrested, they were actually zip tied. So they didn't, I mean, there were 7 of them arrested and they didn't even use handcuffs. They used zip ties. So there's more treatment happening here with the police and the water protectors than I think a lot of news organizations are talking about. So if you're going to come up here, please be ready to go where you're needed. Plan to camp. Just plan to be as self-sufficient as you can. You know, bring tent, food, clothing for variable weather. They are doing their best to make sure that they can provide limited support to those who are in need. But just keep in mind, you know, to do your best to come self-sufficient. Another big thing that I wanted to talk about this weekend, or what happened late last week, is that water protectors actually ended up seeking an emergency restraining order against the county sheriff in Hubbard County for harassment. If you tuned into if you tuned into Native Roots Radio in the past few weeks, we were talking about what Hubbard County has been doing to the water protectors in Camp Nemewag, just outside of Park Rapids, right, Robert?
Yeah, exactly. You know, as you're speaking, Winona LaDuke being arrested and the 6 other warriors up there, it's like all I can think of is, hey, run this pipeline through the governor's mansion. Why is it up in our sacred area where our rice is and there's a drought, Wendy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I in a lot of ways have that same feeling. Like I'm just wondering why this is such a problem. So basically what ended up happening is that the water protectors filed suit on Friday to stop a police blockade at their camp that they live at. Basically what happened is the police came and blocked in their home. Is what happened. So the plaintiffs are Tara Hauska and Winona LaDuke, as well as others. And basically, they're taking action in response to Hubbard County Sheriff's ongoing blockade of private property, which began at the end of last month. Hubbard County Sheriff Corey Ox and Mark Lohmeyer were the land commissioners, who is the land commissioner, were labeled as defendants. Basically, Tara said that they're attempting to construct a de facto open air prison to trap Indigenous environmental protectors on their own property and to prevent others from joining them to stop Line 3. Basically, they came and arrested 12 people. They were violent in some cases, and there were about 50 squad cars on the dirt road, blocking them in essentially to their home. So it's really absurd kind of what's happening here. Another thing that's happening at Camp Nemewag is that there is an absurd ordinance that Hubbard County is using. The ordinance is ordinance number 36, which went into effect in 2007. And according to public records, it prohibits vehicular use on certain county-owned land without the county's permission. And that is the ordinance that they're trying to nail the water protectors with at Camp Nemewag. So, I mean, this is all of this is happening in the midst of a major drought. Enbridge has been reported as continuing to take water in places that their dewatering permits have been limited. All at the same time, the city of Grand Forks has just begun asking residents to limit outdoor water usage. Baxter, Carver, Dayton, Minnestrida, Sartell, Sauk Rapids, and about a dozen more cities in Minnesota are on water restrictions.
Wow.
That means you can't water, you can't run your sprinklers, you can't water your yard unless you meet certain criteria. You have your own well, you're doing those types of things. And yet Enbridge has received a permit to take 10 times the amount of water, almost 5 billion gallons out of Minnesota. And the city of Minneapolis is paying for that water, for the lowered water usage. I mean, I'm honestly baffled right now. The piece of good news that I definitely want to share with you for today is that the Madison City Council is expecting to vote on a resolution on Tuesday in support of Indigenous sovereignty on the local, state, and federal level. Basically, the resolution has 13 sponsors and notes that each of the lines crosses, and basically they're saying that the Line 3 replacement project in Minnesota is terrible, and they're asking leaders to stop and reroute the Line 5 in northern Wisconsin and to stop the construction of Line 3. It's pretty exciting to see that from Wisconsin, especially with their recent debacle with Enbridge over the winter, where Enbridge didn't report their spill in Wisconsin for was it 18 months, Robert? Something like that.
I know. Wow. And then are you going to talk about, before we let you go, because we're getting down to that time, about what you're going to be doing tomorrow?
Yes, so tomorrow there's a press conference at Itasca State Park. So I will be going north tomorrow to catch that press conference and to try to get an idea of what the situation is up there in the North Country, and should be able to report back to everybody tomorrow evening.
Yes. Don't get arrested.
I will do my best. Rumor has it they're targeting media, so I'll do my best. But put out a bail fund for me,
That's right. We can get that happening quick. Yeah.
It's really crazy how they're on their own land, and the police are keeping them there and harassing them on their own land. That's crazy.
And where's the media besides Native Roots Radio and Ogimaa?
Nobody's caring about this.
They're breaking treaties. That's what they're doing.
Want some money. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely, Lewis. We can talk a little bit about that. And what I'd like to talk about is our children coming home with Lewis up next. And then we have Dr. Stately. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and we'll be right back after this short break.
Stay with us. We have vital information we would like to share with you. The Department of Indian Work St. Paul partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. They provide information on testing sites, isolation space, vaccines, housing assistance, and food resources. If you or someone you know has questions about COVID-19 or has questions to determine if you should get tested, please call them at 651-304-9986. Again, the number is 651-304-9986. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline is open for calls Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986. That's 651-304-9986.
Life is a journey, and the Doherty Family College will help you get where you want to go. Located downtown Minneapolis, this affordable 2-year college provides free textbooks, a laptop, meals, career coaches, one-on-one mentorship, and a Metro Transit pass, making DFC the perfect pathway to a bachelor's degree. Turn your dreams into reality. Connect with a counselor today at dfc.stthomas.edu.
Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
This is Winona LaDuke of Honor the Earth, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio. I'm awake.
We are Alusa Nation.
Hey, welcome back. The Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot.
And this portion of the show is brought to you by MN350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice.
That's right. Hey, we got a quick question. I'm wondering, Ogimaa, if you're available to answer this before we get to with Lewis. It's asking me, have you collaborated with any media news channels about the land and water protectors? And if so, what was the response you received, if any? And can you touch on that, Ogimaa? Because I know you're on daily meetings with other media all across Turtle Island.
Right. So there is media that is responding to this. It's for the most part not mainstream media. And the mainstream media, excuse me, that does come kind of picks and chooses what they want to talk about when it comes to this issue. Most of the articles that I've read from mainstream media are really putting the story in perspective of water protectors versus police, instead of talking about what's actually happening, which is that there's not enough water in Minnesota and that these permits have been given, without public notice. So, I mean, as far as the response from other media, it's hit or miss as to depending on who you're talking to and, basically what their angle is. It kind of depends on the media person. I mean, you're going to get a lot different of a response from Fox News than you are from, say, Common Dreams,
Yeah. Oh, thanks. And Nancy, thanks for the question too. And I thought Ogimaa, who's boots on the ground every day with this news, and Wendy and I were talking a little bit how draining it is because, we were talking about the horses.
Just reading the news and reading bad news over and over again. It's kind of just debilitating, really. And it just makes you sad. So
yeah, it really does. Well, I want to bring our guy, Lewis, Lakota guy, TikTok sensation, and one of our helpers here on Native Roots Radio and Daily Helper. And I want to talk a little bit about what happened with our bringing home. But if you want, you can also comment first, because I know you mentioned the 1855 treaty of what we were talking about, and then maybe we can talk about our relatives coming back. Welcome, Lewis.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Absolutely. What's happening on Line 3 really needs to be talked about, and I echo Ogimaa's opinion that we really need to get mass media on it and mainstream media. This type of thing should not be ignored, considering it's literally breaking the 1855 Treaty of the Chippewa, which was reaffirmed in 1996. What that treaty basically means, for those that may not know, is that Indigenous people that are under that treaty deserve to be held in council when it comes to anything like environmental or land issues like that. So, there needs to be an environmental monitor from the tribe or nations up there, and they're not having that right now because, corporations are more important than our environment and our children's land, according to Enbridge and their allies. So that's how that is. But I wanted to maybe transfer over to the 9 relatives that came back to Rosebud. How mataku yapi ampetu washte, yuha chante washte nape chayuza pelo, na sichangu Lakota hemecha wambli wakinya imachi apilo. I wanted to greet everyone out there in my Lakota standard greeting before I talk about this, because it's a very important issue. 9 of our relatives came back from Carlisle Indian boarding school, and Indian boarding school in the First Nations community and in the United States has been kind of a hot issue right now because of the over 1,000 relatives that we found in First Nations boarding schools, including Kamloops, all across Canada. And this is coming face to face with colonial governments today. And this spurred a new interest in boarding schools in the United States. The United States continues to not have a Truth and Reconciliation Commission like Canada did, like Central America did, like South Africa did. But this is one of the things that we would definitely be including, that is repatriation of our relatives at these boarding schools. 9 of them came home. An interesting story off of Philadelphia Inquirer. They mentioned that 6 years ago, a group of Rosebud Sioux tribal kids ventured the 1,500 miles from Rosebud to Pennsylvania, placing candy on the graves of children buried on the grounds of the former Carlisle Indian Industrial School. And these are the kids that actually went back 1,500 miles and some odd years later, 6 years later, and repatriated these and were able to recover these remains and bring them back to the Sichango Lakota Oyate, the Rosebud Sioux Nation. It's a 1,500-mile trek, and one of the people that did it had an interesting quote. He said, "We were just kids," as his voice cracked, said Christopher Eaglebear. Then he was 17 years old, high school senior. Now he's 23 years old, and he's a wildland firefighter. A lot of young leaders have been built up from this. Another quote that was really interesting, Robert, is one from Josh Ironshell, who is a Sichango Lakota tribal citizen as well. He said, "It brings comfort to these families knowing their relatives' spirits are not lost alone and roaming the earth suffering." He said, "Our relatives deserve to be at peace on the lands that they thrived on." And that's such a poignant piece. And I wanted to just take time out in space and thank you so much for allowing me the space to say their names publicly on air and on the internet. And it's such an important piece. And I want to be cautious and say this in a good way. And I want to ask for forgiveness from my elders for speaking out on this because I consider this a sacred piece of repatriation. I'm going to say their names, their Lakota names, as I don't know if their colonial names were approved by their relatives. So the only way I know how to honor them is saying them by the Lakota names. We have Pretty Eagle, Little Hawk, White Thunder, Blue Tomahawk, Swift Bear, Friend Hollow Horn Bear, Bear Paints Dirt, Kill 7 Horses, and Brave Bull. These are the relatives that returned back to our nation, Robert. And it's a solemn time for us. It's a time for grieving. But at the same time, we also celebrate their return back home.
Oh, yeah. And I know I've mentioned this, and that was powerful, Lewis.
Yeah, just reading those names and hearing them just really brings tears to my eyes.
Yeah, and we all think exactly, Wendy, and we all think about like my Gaga, which means grandmother in Ho-Chunk, and hearing the story that she was in a residential school, and that my great grandpa Howard McKee Jr. went and kidnapped her out of there. And so we all have stories, and I know you have stories, and it's a thing that's really quite heavy duty for us. And it's great to bring this up for our allies all across Turtle Island to listen to this. Very powerful. Thank you.
I also want to give honor to Interior Secretary Deborah Haaland. She made it a great point to actually attend the repatriation ceremony at Carlisle Indian School. They had prayer there. They had a gathering. They had a ceremony there, and they had speakers talking about boarding school and the experience of a lot of those survivors. And her great grandfather actually attended Carlisle. This is Deborah Haaland. So it was really personal for her to be there. And for anyone that's elected official that is Indigenous, it's important for you to show up with your people and do what's right. It's important for you to show up and be there with your people. And that's what Deborah Haaland did. And we appreciate that.
Yeah, I got to meet her a year ago, and her own story too is just a powerful story, and of where she came from and where she's at. I think she was a single mother and struggled a lot, and now she's in Biden's cabinet and doing good things for everybody, not just Native Americans, but everybody, but also representing us and representing us and giving us a voice, Wendy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually. And, it just still astonishes me that this just happened. Like these
Yeah.
residential schools, this is like one generation away. Like,
Right.
you know, people that it happened to, a grandmother. This is not something that happened like 500 years ago. This is just happened.
Right. And Lewis and Wendy, it's good to bring up, because I think, again, even our allies don't know the trauma that our relatives have gone through, and what we're going through right today. We're still here right today, you know, right, Lewis?
Absolutely. You know, one thing, and thank you, Wendy, for bringing that up with our relatives. We talk about language repatriation. You know, we talk about things like cultural repatriation. For those allies listening, did you know that Native Americans couldn't celebrate their religious freedom until 1978? Think about how many of us have been born before 1978 or close to 1978. It took them that long for them to give us our rights in order to freely celebrate our religion, and that was the Indian Religious Freedom Act of 1978. And we think about the residual effects of boarding school. Those are clear and present today in Indian country. We have generational trauma. We have language that was severely cut with one generation. In fact, a lot of these kids endured a lot of trauma, even trying to speak their native language, the language they came to boarding school with. So them enduring that trauma, coming home and telling their children, hey, you shouldn't maybe speak our indigenous language because I don't want to see you get hurt. And what that did is that it was a snowball effect of, you know, indigenous language erasure. And we have so many amazing people out there doing the good thing. And shout out to all our indigenous reservation community colleges that are helping in repatriation our language. Thank you for allowing us this time, Robert.
Yes, Pinigigi, definitely. We're here. We say at the end of the show, we're still here. And I want to say that we're still here. We're not like we were 500 years ago or even 400 years ago. The 100 million people were slaughtered, and our people all over Turtle Island. So we're 2% of the population, but this is where we came from, and we all have stories about how we came from here, and we're from here, and we're still here. Up next, Dr. Stately, Pinigigi Lewis.
Stay with us.
Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me one. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Hi, this is Brian, the owner of AirSeal Tech. I wanted to say thank you to all the AM 950 listeners who have had us help them solve their home performance issues. And for the listeners that are still struggling with being hot or cold, with poor indoor air quality, asthma or allergy symptoms, high indoor humidity, or extremely high energy bills, we can help. AirSeal Tech's mission is very simple. That's to be the very best insulation contractor in the state of Minnesota. We live up to this goal with the use of state-of-the-art equipment and can show you proof of the things that are causing your comfort issues. If you're not testing, you're just guessing. Proof is possible. Do not trust your family's comfort, health, and safety to a guess. Many of Minnesota's largest builders, remodelers, HVAC contractors, and property managers rely on the high-quality service provided by AirSeal Tech, Minnesota's only BPI-certified Gold Star contractor. For a free, honest, and accurate assessment of any comfort issue and a no-pressure estimate from the best, give AirSeal Tech a call at 612-888-3664.
If you're hurting in your relationship or have been affected by sexual violence, you're not alone. Strong Hearts Native Helpline can help you through these difficult and uncertain times. Strong Hearts Helpline is a free 24/7 confidential domestic dating and sexual violence helpline for Native Americans. Help is available by calling 1-844-762-8483 or by clicking on the Chat Now icon on strongheartshelpline.org. This message is sponsored by the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center.
COVID-19 vaccines are safe, effective, free, and approved for everyone over the age of 12. Need help getting a COVID-19 vaccine? Trusted community connectors can find vaccination sites, make appointments, answer questions, and provide interpretation. To learn more about scheduling a free appointment or find a community connector, visit ramseycounty.us/COVID vaccine. That's ramseycounty.us/COVID vaccine.
You've heard the screamers, you've heard the shouters. Well, now it's time to listen to a real conversation. Now it's time for the Rick Unger Show.
Weeknights from 8 to 10 p.m. on AM 950.
We have vital information we would like to share with you. The Department of Indian Work St. Paul partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. They provide information on testing sites, isolation space, vaccines, housing assistance, and food resources. If you or someone you know has questions about COVID-19 or has questions to determine if you should get tested, please call them at 651-304-9986. Again, the number is 651-304-9986. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline is open for calls Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986. That's 651-304-9986.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies overnight with a low around 69. Tuesday, partly cloudy with a high near 94. Wednesday, sunny with a high near 90. And Thursday, sunny with a high near 92. Located just north of 50th in France, the Great Wall Restaurant has been providing a delicious taste of authentic Chinese cuisine since 1981. They offer one of the most extensive Chinese menus in the Twin Cities, and they have takeout available too. Learn more about the Great Wall Restaurant at eatlocalminnesota.com.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. Call them at 651-304-9986. They're open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Wow, we've missed the doctor here, it was good to see. We were watching you make your bed and stuff like that in the background there with the little teeny picture, Wendy. I said, Wendy, look at he's straightening up his room for us.
Well, you got to fix up the background. It's got to look legit.
Hey, we've missed you, Dr. Staley. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for the welcome back. I know I've been gone for a couple of weeks. It's been kind of like discombobulating to figure out this whole process again. But I did make the bed, and then they came and laid down on it. My kids.
They want to watch you in action.
That's funny. I'm an everyday. 90% of the time, I wake up and I make my bed. I do that every day. I don't know. Like
it's a good habit
if I have to, but most days I do.
Yeah. I do as well. However, I get up in the morning and my one son who still sleeps with me. I know it's crazy. He's 14. He still sleeps with me on the other side, and he's in it. So I could make him with an in it, but it would kind of defeat the purpose of having to do it again. But he doesn't get up. I'm hoping that when he starts high school in the fall, he'll get up earlier, and he'll also not sleep in my bed anymore, which would be great. But we'll see.
Well, I think if he goes to like a Big Ten school, you'll have to go move with him. I think that's
if he goes to a really good Big Ten school where like they have some I don't know, something really cool going on, I might actually go live with him for part of the year. I'm joking.
Well, it's something about your room that he likes. So it's either he needs a better mattress or a bigger air conditioner or a ceiling fan, or
he just loves his dad.
The room teal.
Loves his dad. Come on, Wendy.
No, well, actually, I thought it was that he loved me, and I was like, oh, he wants to be with me, and he still loves me, not like the other twin. But I said to him, so hey, like you're getting into high school, you should go and get your own bed now. Come on, you have your own room. And he said, I like your bed. And my bed, and there's a lot to like about my bed. I bought it from the people that I bought the house from. The head goes up, the feet go up. It's all
there you go. That's
it vibrates. It gives you a little massage.
Whoa,
of course.
We're coming over. What the heck?
We're coming over to sleep.
This kind of defeats the purpose of like. Anyway, so.
Well, we haven't seen you in a couple weeks, and I know Wendy's got her phone open and she's ready to ask some questions.
Oh, okay.
Things are happening.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
you know
Wen.
what, Dr. Stately, 3 days ago, I get these updates on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
And I got the U.S. health official called COVID-19 a pandemic of the unvaccinated this week. This was 3 days ago. The virus is spreading quickly among unvaccinated people. Since last week, cases are up 70%, hospitalizations are up 36%, and deaths are up 26%. But almost all of these new cases are unvaccinated people. Everyone is urged to get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect themselves and others. And when I saw those numbers and I read that, that really kind of scared me a little bit.
Yeah, it is very frightening. I think I'm hoping that I know that a lot of listeners, either because they don't have access to it or because of any number of reasons, might not be listening to the nightly news. But I think pretty consistently, Dr. Fauci, the head of the COVID sort of work, and he's like the nation's top immunologist, right? This is the man has spent his entire career, understanding the nature of transmissible diseases and ipso de facto also the prevention of it. And so, I listen to him fairly regularly, and I think the one thing that's concerning about all of this is that the majority of these cases can be directly attributed to unvaccinated folks within certain jurisdictions and that have very high numbers of people in the community circulating, right, that don't have any vaccine or that have very low numbers of vaccinated people. And I think the parenthetical statement here is like fully vaccinated people, right? So it's like if you got one shot, but you didn't get the second shot 3 weeks later or 4 weeks later, depending on whether you got the Moderna or the Pfizer vaccine, you really are essentially only partially vaccinated, and you have very low rate of very low probability of protecting yourself and the people around you within your family, your loved ones from transmission of the COVID virus. I think the part of it is not recognizing how rapidly and easily this one particular variant is to transmit and to acquire, and how virulent it is in terms of making people sick.
Dr. Stately, I just want to bring up the fact that a long time ago when we first met, I want to bring up how much a miracle this vaccine is. And it's not brand new. People have been working on this. I mean, we were hoping when they were looking for a vaccine during the middle of this COVID is that if we could get 50 or 60%, people work for, that they won't get sick. And we're at, 99.9% here if you're vaccinated. How much, can you remind our audience how much of a miracle this is?
I think that's a very good question and a very good point. Like it is tremendously significant that we were able to develop this vaccine, meaning not develop it from the perspective of we just pulled it out of thin air. They had been working on the science for this, for decades, right? We have made leaps and bounds over the last 10, 15, 20 years in terms of understanding, genotyping and RNA technology and a bunch of other things that sort of have advanced our ability to rapidly develop something of this nature. But the fact that that we were able to essentially develop a vaccine and deploy it 9 months after it hit the shores of the United States, we now think that it might have been actually a year. Some cases have been able to be typed back all the way to late 2019. Wow. Is remarkable, is very remarkable, right? we have had other types of experiences with other kinds of issues that are highly contagious and infectious diseases, not nearly necessarily as deadly as this one specific virus, but it has taken us longer to sort of come up with solutions for them. It is really quite remarkable that we have come up with a very effective solution to prevent serious illness or death, right? So those are really important things to sort of like remember here. So it might not necessarily 100% of the time, prevent you from actually getting coronavirus and transmitting it, but it'll prevent you, from getting very seriously ill and from transmitting it. And
it's sad how it's become such a, in a lot of ways, a political thing. And I mean, the past president said it was a miracle drug, and now that he's not in office, a lot of people in his party are poo-hooing it as control, don't do this. I mean, that's just a general statement. And I know in Indian country, we have our own issues with trust too.
Yeah, we absolutely do. We have a lot of work in our communities still to do with faith and trust in healthcare and healthcare systems, and trusting anything that the government says to us or does for us, which is there is a part of me that feels like this sort of ebb and flow of ambivalence and safety and sense of safety and stuff like that we kind of go through when we're approaching something of this nature is somewhat normative. I think it's something we're used to. It's something we sort of have acquired either because of our own experiences. We've had some specific experiences that kind of lead us to think that these are things that are not trustworthy, or we've heard stories from family members or community folk, or we've heard other stories of why we shouldn't trust certain things. And I always think it's important to sort of use a bit of caution and a lot of common sense in sort of measuring whether or not you should do X, Y, and Z when a doctor tells you to do it, or when a public health specialist tells you to do it, or this or that. You use a measure of common sense and also trust your gut kind of thing. But I think the problem is across our country and in a lot of our communities is like people are responding to not thoroughly vetted information, and are responding to like either misinformation or disinformation, right? And those two things are really different. Misinformation is like, I don't have all the information, or I only have part of it. Disinformation is purposeful intentions of trying to harm people by giving them the wrong information so that they'll make a decision that is harmful to themselves and to their families and to their communities. And there are quite a few people that are invested in having people do those things, right?
Right.
So that's,
and they're kind of like they're getting rid of their election base. I mean, if people are dying from this, it's crazy. Dr. Stately, do you have the capacity to do? I like using that word, Wendy. Capacity. Do you have a capacity to do another segment with us?
I have the capacity for sure, but
such a fancy word.
I know, right? Capacity means the potential to possibly do it. The ability means yes, I can do it. So I have both the ability and also the capacity. Let's hope my internet holds up.
I love it.
That's awesome. Well, we've missed you and missed this straight talk. And I know there's stuff happening with NACC, Native American Community Clinic, that you are the CEO of, and I'd like to touch base on what's happening there and via COVID and everything else. So, hey, we'll be right back.
COVID.
Well, COVID stuff's happening.
Oh, yes, COVID, yes.
Jeez, Corona. Yeah, we'll be right back. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
Stay with us.
When we heal from our traumas,
when we face our fears,
let go of our addictions,
when we relearn our values,
when we live our teachings,
respecting our elders,
cherishing and honoring our children,
when we honor and take care of our spirit,
there will be no room left for sexual violence.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy, but with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
Wow, Hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanjahade, which means Distant Thunder. Oh, good one.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Yeah, Dr. Stately's son howled. We might have to do that again. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, Wendy, we've missed Dr. Stately.
Yeah, we have. It's great to have him back.
Who's the CEO of Native American Community Clinic
in Minneapolis.
And I don't know. It was just fun listening to him, and we really missed you, Dr. Stately. Thanks for coming on. I hope you enjoy this half as much as we do, because we really love to start the week out with some common sense information.
Yeah, we have somebody on the air right now asking any updates on NACC remodel.
Oh, Sherry said that.
Yeah, Sherry Goodwin. I love Sherry Goodwin. If she's on, shout out to Sherry Goodwin. Tell her hello. She's always enjoyable to visit with and spend time with. So wish I was in person visiting with her, because she makes me laugh every time I'm around her. And laughter is good medicine. It's the best medicine on the planet. Well, with respect to the Native American Community Clinic and our remodel, we're in the process. I haven't spoken publicly, I don't think, at least on this radio station, about like NACC's plans, but we got a legislative sort of appropriation last year in the 2020 session, final session. We got a cash capital grant to help us purchase our building that we've been operating in for like the last 18 years. And so it allowed us to actually purchase our property, or the building that we have been leasing for the last 18 and a half years, and right on Franklin Avenue. And so now we own the whole building and the land, and we are in the process right now of developing our plan for expansion. We plan to expand the clinic operation, our medical environment, and also our behavioral health footprint, and do some critical updates and expand services to the community. So we're still in the process of communicating and figuring out what that it's going to end up looking like. But we are in the process of doing a lot of planning. Some of that actually involves a community engagement process. And hey, now this brought to mind for me this idea of like, this is a perfect tool to use for community engagement. So maybe we'll have some conversations about how to do that on the radio.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a ho chunk room or something, or some art on the outside of the building.
For sure.
Awesome.
Yep. We definitely owe you some type of ho chunk art of something, because I missed out on the opportunity to do it with the t-shirts, our vaccine t-shirts. So.
Oh, that's right. Hey, well, I'm part chunk, so I really appreciate that.
Are you whole chunk or part chunk? And how do you know?
Part chunk. Yeah, really. How do I know? Exactly.
How does one know?
Exactly. So, hey, what's going on? How are we vaccinating young people? Do we have?
We're vaccinating young people. And one of the things I didn't say in the first session, which is really an important thing, and I was just talking with some folks today at MDH and a few other folks, like, how much effort we're putting into trying to get young people vaccinated. This new Delta variant is something that is highly transmissible, and it seems to be primarily, like we discussed earlier, something that is a particular a danger to the unvaccinated people, and that we're talking about every Minnesotan and every U.S. citizen below the age of 12. That's a lot of people. That's millions and millions and millions of people. And so you think about that, and you think about like, okay, well, that also means that those people can get sick. They can also get the variant, and they can pass it along. They can pass it along to grandma or grandpa or aunties and uncles or their own parents and siblings if those people also haven't gotten vaccinated for whatever reason. Maybe they had a health issue, maybe they had immune issues or those kinds of things. It makes it all the more challenging and all the more urgent for why we have to do a better job of this. And I think I would imagine that there's a lot of people like me who have children, maybe who are under the age of 12. My children are over 12. And I remember when they were finally able to get vaccinated, because they were 14 and they changed the age range below 12 and above, I think about a month and a half ago, almost 2 months ago. Man, I was first in line getting my kids vaccinated because a bunch of things. One is I knew that they wanted to be able to do things like go back to, going out and being with the friends and within the community, enjoying the outdoors, going back to sports, doing a bunch of the kinds of things that involve them being around other large groups of people, right? And it was important for me to also make sure that if they were going to do that, they were going to do that safely, and then also to be able to go back to school in the fall, because they had a really, really hard year last year with their education process. So I was excited about the idea of getting them vaccinated, and so I was one of the ones that was first in line. But I also knew that it was important for me that they were vaccinated so that they couldn't get sick, but also so that they couldn't transmit it to relatives back home, on the res, or any place else that we went. Went to go see grandma. They wouldn't get her sick, and a few other things. Those were all really important things to me. And my hope is that we can get more parents who might be on the fence, might be concerned, might be really ambivalent, to sort of like ask questions, get some more information, go through a decision-making process, and talk with their providers or talk with other people about the vaccine, and try to make a good decision that they feel comfortable with, right? And protect their children, and protect the people in their families and their communities. And my hope is that we can do a better job of that. NACC is having a youth event this Friday from 3 to 5. We'll have a food truck in our parking lot with yummy, yummy food. We'll have some raffles and some other kinds of things to incentivize people to show up. And also as thank yous for sort of like kind of coming out and at least asking questions. It's going to be kind of like a combination of between like kind of like a ask a doctor or ask a provider or ask other people. So a dialogue, they'll be able to ask people questions to get real-time information and answers about certain things. And then and if they feel comfortable, they'll be able to get the vaccine that same exact afternoon. So And
Wow, that's exciting. Hey, we'll have to get you on Thursday for a little blurb for Friday, and also we'd like to donate some Resist T-shirts if you like for your raffle too.
that would be awesome. I would love that.
Yeah, definitely. And whatever we can do to promote this, I really appreciate you, and it's been great to have you on again. And thank you so much. And I'll reach out to you and see if we can get you on Wednesday and Thursday too, just to come on for a quick minute and talk about this.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you both for all your support, for all that you do to support this initiative in the community. It's really important. It's each and every one of ours responsibility to protect our elders and our relatives. So.
Yeah, it is, Wendy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope, people listening will change their minds and, listen to science and make a good decision and get vaccinated. I really do.
Yeah. I want to also encourage people to also get tested if they think they're sick and they might have something. Like I think last week, I had to be off because I had that little sinus infection. Well, it turned out to not be a little sinus infection. I needed to be on a course of antibiotics, but I went and got tested the next morning as soon as I got sick because I wanted to be sure that I wasn't going to pass anything to anybody. So get tested for sure and just make sure that you're not having something that's transmissible.
I wasn't feeling good too last week, and Robert went to Walgreens and got me a nasal rapid swab test that I did at home that came negative. So. Yeah.
And Dr. Stately was sounding like an auntie, and he didn't want to come on, so we gave him the respect, and he didn't have to come on. But I want to say Peony for being on, Dr. Stately. Hey, I would like to end with these thoughts. If you're listening to the show, you are part of the resistance. On the ground on which we stand, that is sacred ground, and is the blood of our ancestors. That's from Chief Plenty Coops. We need to resist, to divest, to join a group, and run for office. You've been listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm your host, Robert. I want to give a shout out to we only got a few seconds. Shout out to everyone, and especially Dr. Stately. We are the seventh generation.
Free Leonard Peltier.
I'm Candy Brothel, publisher of the Twin Cities edition of Natural Awakenings magazine and host of Green Tea Conversations, a new show